For those of you guys that haven't heard of DJI, it's an absolutely wonderful tech company. And I think they're the most well known for their drones. And I love their drones. They took consumer drone production and manufacturing to a level none of us really saw coming. Next thing you know, they're just putting out, like the DJI Mavic was their original drone. Well, it wasn't the original, but it was one of the really high quality. I think they had the DJI Inspire or something. They took consumer drones to a whole nother level. You can now, as a consumer, buy a reasonably priced drone and fly it, have it be stable and take amazing video. They pretty much invented that, in my opinion. Maybe there's some other companies out there, but DJI is that company. And so they've gotten into other markets, and the gimbal market is one. They put out a wonderful gimbal that you can mount your camera to, and it gives you really wonderful footage. But they also created the DJI Pocket, and this is the DJI Pocket 2. The problem is this: what hole in the market does this fill? It's a good question. Does it fill the GoPro? What GoPro's filling currently? Not really, because although it's small, GoPro's an action camera. It has stable footage. In order to replace the GoPro market, you need an advantage, and the video specs just don't compete with GoPro at this point. Can you compete with like DSLR cameras or anything like that? Not really. There's two different markets. And so, that leads me to, the connection to the phone. This little device right here, and that's to plug in to your cell phone. You can see I have a standard iPhone 12 basic case. It's not made to work with a case, and that's just short-sighted to me. If you're gonna go to the process of connecting this to your phone and shooting like this, why not just shoot with your phone? Because your phone's gonna take better video, photo, and you're already used to using it. And so for me, that's the big issue with the DJI Osmo Pocket. However, let me give you the details as far as the pros and the cons, and you can see what you think for yourself. I think one of the primary intents from DJI was to produce a camera that had really stabilized video. And I think they did a really good job at that goal. And you can see no matter whether you're driving in a car or you're running, you're walking, whatever it is, the DJI Pocket Pro does a wonderful job at creating stabilized video without any distortion. Now here you can see, as I'm taking a walk through one of our local parks, you can see the up and down a little bit with each step, but I think it's actually very comparable to your newer GoPros, if not even better.
Here you can see I'm taking a jog, and the footage is even better than when you're just walking. So good job, DJI, on the stabilization of the video. Let's talk about the color and the richness of the image. When you have perfect lighting conditions, this little sensor and this little device can really produce a wonderful image. I mean, you can see by some of these blues and even the greens, this is all raw footage. There's no editing done. This little unit can produce a wonderful image. And even as you go into some not so perfect lighting conditions where you're starting to get some dynamic range, this guy does still produce a pretty good image. I think for such a small device, that's really important.
So the first thing we want to do is compare the Pocket version 1 versus the Pocket version 2. And you can see that it's taller. Well, not necessarily, because the base actually is here and this actually disconnects. But for all intents and purposes, this is the way I would use it. So this is the way that I'm going to show it. And I kind of like the fact that you get a little more hand room, whereas on here, you're covering the screen if you put your hand on it. One more comparison is this scroll wheel. Now that was a add-on feature for the original, and now they've taken it so that you pop this piece out, which you can also put here, put this piece in, which is much smaller and makes a lot more sense as far as using. Let's take a look at some of these options. I'm not going to show you everything, but the ones that mean the most to me as a photographer, videographer, these are the ones that I'm going to kind of highlight for you. All right, so the first thing is your function button, and you have this. This is one way to get to it, this button right here. And you can just hit it once to change to the next function, tilt locked. If you're not sure what the functions do, you can kind of look those up, but tilt lock keeps you on a level horizon. And then if you hit it again, you can move over to FPV, so it'll kind of follow you. It locks in the left, right, up, down, but limits the angles. And then the complete follow, you lock it onto a target and it'll follow the target twice. You can see it's changing that little icon there. So now it'll raise and lower, the toggle switch will raise and lower the gimbal head. You hit it twice again, now it's back to zoom. And this is a really cool feature for this guy to be able to zoom in like that. That's new. Very, very smart of DJI to include that. What I will say is that it's not a smooth zoom. So you're not going to want to include the actual zooming process in your videos if you're really into the details of producing a great, smooth flowing film. But it is nice to be able to change your frame up a little bit. The button below it is you hit it once to go through, whether you want to do photo or video. You can hit it twice to recenter, 3 times to flip it around into selfie mode, and 3 times again to flip it back. And of course, this is your record button. Let's go over some of the on-screen controls. If you go from left to right, this is simply where you have your files stored. And if you had a video here and you went left to right again, you could either, save it as one of your favorites or you could delete it. If you go from the bottom up, you're going to find your different modes again. And so here you have FPV, follow, and tilt locked. On this side, you can either change your follow from fast to slow. Up here is just going to flip the camera, and this one is just going to recenter. Now, if you go from the top down, you're going to get into a majority of your settings, starting with all the way to the left. You can go here to change the function of the toggle switch from moving the gimbal up and down to zoom. Right now it's set to zoom. If you hit it, now you see it's set to moving the gimbal head up, down, left, and right. One to the right is a waterproof cover feature. I haven't really experimented with this. I guess this unit would be good underwater if you got the underwater case. It's I will say it's a little tiny bit water resistant, but ultimately you want to keep this thing out of the weather without a waterproof cover. They do make one. The next one over is your settings. And this is, it just has some oddball settings, tells you your storage. You can go full screen if you really need to focus in on something and make sure you nail focus. It has an accessories button where you can control Wi-Fi and all kinds of stuff that you probably will never use or use very little. Now here's the screen from right to left that you'll use probably the most. And this is where you can get into all the different settings for each mode, starting with Pano. And with Pano, you can do a 3x3 or you can do 180, and then it has different countdown options. And then for photo, you can get into your different aspect ratios and again, your countdown. And let's see, then you can go to video. And if you scroll over, you can get into your different resolutions as well as your different frame rates. If you want to do slow motion, see how that was a little bit tricky? That's one of the products of having such a small screen and such big fingers. Slow motion right here, you can only do it in 1080, and you can slow it down either 4 or 8 times. Now, I think one of the cool things this unit has is time-lapse features. And you can do standard time-lapse features, or you can do hyperlapse, you can do motion. Trying to get it to stop there on motion lapse. There we go. Time lapse, motion lapse, and hyperlapse. And, they're all very cool options, especially the hyperlapse. But there's definitely uses for these in what I do. And you can probably find some uses for them in what you do as well. I think the big advantage to having the DJI Pocket 2, or the Pocket 1 for that matter, is a discrete, nature in your filming. And so, you can use a GoPro and other devices that are discrete as far as doing filming, but this one just doesn't, a lot of people don't know what it is. They don't know to think that it's a camera, and your hand covers so much of it when you're using it that it's just a lot more discreet than the well-known GoPros or other smaller cameras out there. And so that's the one advantage that I can come up with for purchasing the DJI Osmo Pocket 2 at around $400. If that's not a big concern to you, why not just use your phone? They're probably going to be more efficient options. If you're a tech geek like me and you love all the new gadgets that are coming out, you'll probably want to go ahead and do what I did, and that's buy it, play with it, and see what happens. But most likely what's going to end up happening with it, as far as my uses, is it's going to end up on the shelf, and that's probably where it'll stay. Let me know down in the comments what you think of the DJI Osmo Pocket 2. Do you like what you see? Are you going to purchase one? Have you already purchased one? And do you agree with me or disagree with me? If you haven't subscribed to the channel and you enjoyed this video, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button, hit that bell, and then you'll be notified of all new videos that I release. I greatly appreciate your support. The way the channel grows is by leaving positive feedback, leaving a comment down in the comments section, and sharing the video with your family and friends. Guys, I hope you have an awesome week, and I'll see you on the next video.